Hi, it's Vic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm sharing with you these Time for Tea Designs Crafty Cats stamp set. So today I'm using a standard size square card, and I've just trimmed down a piece of white card that's slightly smaller than the card base. And this will go on top of the card. So now I have the Time for Tea Scene It stencil, and I'm just going to be using some distress ink, and this is tumbled glass, and I'm using the lovely blender brushes as well. I highly recommend these for ink blending. They just make it super easy. And what I'm doing here, I'm just adding on the ink and gently going over the stencil with the blender brush and making a cloud scene. And another thing I love about this stencil is there is a grass on the bottom of the stencil, which I'm going to be using in a second. And there's also the sun rays in the middle, so it's very, very handy and really fun to work with. So now I have another piece of white card, and I'm using the grass stencil, the bottom part, and I'm just applying some bundled sage onto the blender brush and ink blending this piece of card. And then what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more to give it a little bit more texture at the bottom of the grass, and I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut this out. So the reason why I didn't ink blend this straight onto the sky background is because I've made a rainbow using the Circle of Love dies, which is again from the new May release, and they're lovely. I wanted to have the rainbow peeking out, so the bottom of the rainbow will be hidden in the grass that I've just stenciled. And then once that's been cut out, I'm going to add a little bit more ink onto the piece of the grass, and you'll see in a second I cut the end of this a little bit too short. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to adhere this onto the cloud piece, and then I'm just going to trim off that excess piece that's hanging over the edge. And this actually worked out really well because I liked how the rainbow was hanging over the actual panel at the end. So now I'm just adhering down the rainbow, and I've used some double-sided tape for this, and you can see here the couple of ends that are hanging over the edge, but it does look really nice once the card is finished. So here I've got my card base, and I'm using the same Scene It stencil and the tumbled glass along with the blender brush, and I'm just adding some more sky and clouds onto the actual card base. So when the card's complete, you'll see a little bit of the sky and the panel that I've just done. And I've done this just to add a bit more interest. And if you do make this card, you can just do the first part of the cloud and then move your stencil along and do the end part. You don't have to do the middle because it will be covered up. But these stencils are so easy to use, and I think they make a really pretty cloud scene, especially when you use distress ink. So they are one of my favourite stencils, and in a minute I'm going to be adding some more of the bundled sage along the bottom of the card as the grass, just to blend it all in nicely. And the colours of distress ink I used are quite soft colours, but feel free to use a more brighter blue or whichever colour ink you want to use. So here is the Crafty Cats stamps, and they're so adorable, and they're perfect if you have crafty friends and want to send them a card, or any card really. They're just really fun to work with. So here I'm just going ahead and stamping down which images I'm going to be placing on my card, and I've used my Misty, and I will be using some Memento Tuxedo black ink to stamp them with, as I'm going to be doing some Copic colouring. So now I'm just doing some colouring, and I've used E50 and E51 for these cats, and I have to be honest, I'm not the best at colouring cats. I don't know why, I just find them quite tricky. It's really bizarre, but anyway, I've gone in with some R11 for their cheeks, nose and ears, and then to add a little stripe, which is quite faint, I've used E41. So these stamps also have coordinating dies, and the first cat that I was colouring, there's a die that actually cuts out his paw, so he's able to hold some of the accessories in the stamp set. So it could be a paintbrush, could be their little jar, there's a rubber stamp, there's a palette of paint, which is just so fun, and I think it's a lovely idea. Also, you can mix and match with whichever stamp sets you use, so maybe you could be holding a piece of birthday cake, or just use your imagination and have fun. So now I'm just finishing up colouring the last few images, and then I'm going to be using the coordinating dies, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut them out in my die cutting machine. So I've added some washi tape to the dies to make sure that they don't move once they go in the machine, and this is my favourite part, just removing them from the dies, and they're all lovely and cut out perfectly. Next I'm going to be moving on to my sentiment. So I've used craft supplies before guys, which is just makes me laugh, it's so true as well. And I've just got some plain black card, and I'm using some Versamark ink and some white embossing powder, and I'm just sprinkling this on top and then putting the excess back in the jar. And then I didn't use a anti-static bag, so I have bits of powder that are stuck to the card, but I just gently use a paintbrush that's dry just to brush away them little pieces, and then I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss the sentiment. And once the sentiment's done, I'm going ahead with my little trimmer, and I'm just trimming down the sentiment so that it fits nicely onto my card. So now I'm moving on to my ink blended panel, and I'm just adhering down some foam tape to give it a little bit of extra dimension, and then I'm going to adhere this piece onto the card base. And then once that's adhered down, I'm going to adhere the sentiment, my rainbow, which I used double-sided tape for because I didn't want to add any more dimension really. And then I'm going to be adding the cute little cats and their little accessories. I've got some Doecraft 3D pearl effect, which I'm just adding to the top part of the card just to add a little bit more interest. And then once that's done, I'm going to just gently lift the card up and flick the bottom, because when I put this on the card it come out more like a dome sort of shape, but if you flick the bottom of the card it does help flatten them out, and it also works with Nouveau drops too. And then to finish the card off, I'm going to add some more Doecraft glitter glue. So this is in a gold, and I'm just adding it to that little heart. And there we go, the card's all complete, and I love that sentiment. It's so funny and I can completely relate to that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.